We are in lesson 9. So before we start or before we watch the grammar part, it's advisable for us to start first with the vocabulary. So sa vocabulary natin, this the lesson intends for you to be able to express your reasons. So in previous lessons, we have already discussed or you should be able to or capable to answer the following question. Who, what, where, how. Okay. Ang kulang na lang ay why. So yun na lang, no? So in this lesson, we're going to equip you that. Kasi importante po para malaman ng kausap niyo kung bakit niyo ginagawa yung mga bagay or what are the reasons or cause as well as the effects, no? Okay? So let's proceed. So before that, you have to familiarize yourself for these vocabularies. And these vocabularies are very useful for this lesson. So number one is ski. Ski, which means to say like or means to say romantic interest. Then kirai, which means to say dislike. But take note, if you would want to express kirai towards a person, you prefer to use the a more, no, more what they call euphemist way of saying this. For example, instead of saying kirai, which means to say hate or dislike, you would prefer to use ski janai or ski ja arimasen, which is less embarrassing. No? Next is josu. Josu means to say you're good at or skillful at. That, for example, sensei wa rio sensei wa riori ga josu desu ka? Is the teacher skillful at cooking? So that's a area, no? Next is heta, which means to say you're not good at or you are unskillful. Next, ryori is cooking. So just add the nationality. For example, Nihon, ryori, Japanese cooking or Japanese food. Or Philippine ryori, which is, of course, Filipino food. Kudamono, which means to say fruits. Nomimono, which means to say drinks. Botaniku, toriniku, gyuniku, which means to say these are meats, no? So add mo lang siya buta, which means to say pig, buta niku, which means to say pork meat. Okay. Tori, which means to say bird or poultry meat. Niku is chicken, and of course yu is a short or it's a rat or what we call a name for cow or ushi. So, however, syempre, di ba, ang daming tawag sa cow, sa ushi. So, of course, we are referring to the meat, we call it as beef. Okay, so yun. Next is we have mikan, banana, ongaku, uta, and then we have taksan, which is a lot. Sukoshi, a little. Yoku, well. So these are modifiers of quantity, no? So these are some of the very useful words to remember. For example, uh, Nihongo ga dekimasu ka? Can you speak in Japanese? Or can you do it in Japanese? You can answer, Hi, Sukoshi daki desu, or Sukoshi desu means to say a little. So it means to say your level of Japanese is not that good. Now for example, if your kausap was really impressed to you, you can say, Yoku, very well. So, or you can say, Nihongo wa yoku desu ne. So it means to say that your Japanese is good or well. Now, roughly, so this is basically an estimation or parang you're not certain. Daitai, it means to say you're not medyo you are alanganin or parang you are in not in a certain. Next is we have sensen, which is comes with the negative. It means to say not at all or it's the extreme. You're not completely, for example, are you Japanese? Watashi wa sensen Nihonjin dewa arimasen. So I'm not or not I'm sure certainly or completely sure that I'm not a Japanese or parang gano'n, no, not at all. It means to say extreme. And again, Japanese, we avoid saying extreme except for certain situations siguro. It means to say to assure someone or to describe a certain situation. So it might be you might be using this. But in day-to-day or when you're describing someone, so we avoid yung ganito, no? And of course, we have, of course, my favorite word, mochiron, of course. Mochiron, it's means to say, of course. Parang, um, for example, sa hotel, no, your guest ask for help. For example, kasi dati, or means say, do you want a hand? And then of course your guest will say, mochiron. So of course, means say, so of course, when we are referring na may mochiron to our guests, it's medyo rude, no? So of course, we have other words for that. We use keigo, not mochiron. But when we are talking with our peers, mochiron okay siya. Pero if superior, medyo rude siya. Okay, medyo rude ang ating dating. Next. So these are the sports in Japan. Okay, so we have badminton, badminton. Okay, so basically that's the adaptation of the English words. We have bareboru. Okay, saikoringu. Okay, and this is their national sports. No, ito yung pinaka basketball equivalent. So Japan, basketball is not that Yume, no, Yume, Amari Yume Dewa Arimasen, not so famous. Okay, so Yakyu, Yakyu is very famous, or Yak Nihon wa Yaku ga Yume tot you can say totemo yume desu. So it's medyo talagang Yakyu ang kanilang national sports. Basketball or basuketo boru. Basketo boru wa amari yume na sports to dewa arimasen. So not that famous. Okay. Next, of course, ski. And then you have futoboru, tenisu, suketo, takyu. Okay, napansin niyo yung mga old sports na nilalaro na nila before or prior the adoption of the English sports. Medyo na-adapt na nila yung may sarili silang tawag na Japanese for that, no. Now, mapapansin mo pag yung game late na nila inadapt kasi nga yung name is English name. Okay? Next, we have Saka and of course Gorufu. Gorufu. Okay. Gorufu. Okay, which means say golf. Okay, so let's move on. Next, so these are other terminologies. We have byoki, byoki, byoki. So it's byoki. Okay. Okay, next we have kusuri, medicine. Head is atama, onaka is the stomach, itai is pain. For example, atama nga itai desu. It means to say, I have a pain in my head, or it means to say, I have a headache. Okay. Next is netsu, which is the fever. Netsu, not natsu. Natsu is the summer. Netsu is the fever. Netsu nga arimas. It means to say, I have a fever. Of course, syempre ayaw natin yan. Baka, alam mo na, COVID. Next, ito rin. Kase. Kase, it means to say wind or yung colds, no? Or, kasi kase literally, it's wind. But of course, it could be also refers to colds. Okay, kase o hikimas. So it means to say you catch cold. Okay, catch cold. And of course, yasumimas, it means to say to rest or to take a day off. Okay. Now we have also, syempre, marami, i-describe mo sa yung masakit, no? So, syempre, you have to memorize the anatomy of the body. For example, atama, head, me is eyes, mini is the ears, kuchi is the mouth, nose is hana, same with the flower, no? Hana is nose or hana, which is the flower. Na kata is the shoulder, throat is node, we have ude or stomach, onaka, navel or pusod is heso, and we have mune, the chest, and also we have the thigh, we have photo momo, we have the knee, higi, we have the legs, ashi, okay, and foot, ashi. So napansin nyo may parehas siyang parehas ang tawag nila sa legs saka sa foot. So walang differentiation, no? So pag sinabing leg, baba ng knee, or let's say ng higi. So syempre higi and below is the foot, ashi. And of course, ang tawag sa katawan is karada. Karada means to say the body. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, so these are a few handful verbs that we're going to use for this lesson. Yasumimasu, which means to say to rest, to take a vacation, or to take a day off. Wakarimasu, which means to say to understand. And arimas, which means to say to have or to exist. For example, I have a pen. Pen nga arimas. So I have a pen. So basically that's the expression there. Now, of course, for our expressions, or these are useful expressions for this lesson, and somewhat it's connected in your probable workplace kasi these are common day-to-day expressions. Okay, for example, dosh, okay, do shimashita ka, okay, do shimashita ka, okay, do, which means to say how, how, shimashita ka, di ba? From the word shimashita, okay, shimas, okay. So it means to say do, how, shimas, to do, or dahil past tense siya, or there's some sort of pagiging past. It means to say, what's the matter with you? So, parang tinatanong, anong problema? Or parang, of course, syempre, it comes with the tone. No? So, pag sinabing, doshimashita ka? So, what's wrong with you? Parang ganun siya. No? What's wrong with you in English? But for Japanese, ganun equivalent niya. So, anong mali sa'yo? Or parang, what's the matter with you? Parang ganun. Kasi parang, what's the matter with you? Parang, ano siya, no? Hindi pa siya ganun ka mas maganda yung translation ng what's wrong with you. Okay? Pero kapag diniretso mo siya sa Japanese kasi parang iba na yung meaning. So yun ang equivalent nito. Next is sumimasen nga. Sumimasen nga. Okay. Excuse me, but of course, 'di ba ga or nga is the but. Okay. So yung ating connector no sa previous lesson. Next is we have nandeska. Nandeska. Okay. So may I help you? So for example, nandeska. So let's say someone is asked, or you presume that the people or a colleague would need a help. So to volunteer yourself or to ask what's parang ano may tutulong mo, you can raise nandeska. So what can I do for you? Parang ganon. May I help you? However, this word is not to be confused with again, language kasi natin is you have to be sensitive sa kausap mo, no? Situational. For example, nandeska is totally rude for certain situation. For example, you are the shopkeeper or empleyado ko sa isang shop. So, if you see a customer na papunta or may nahanap siya, so might as well mention this word rather than nandeska. Though it's polite, pero parang hindi yata siya appropriate no, for the situation. Okay, for this one is naniga, okay, nanika, sorry, nanika osagashite desu ka? Okay, nani ka. So nani ka, something, diba? Nani is what? Ka, something. So nani ka, something, o saga, from the word sagashite or sagashimas. It means to say search, nagsa-search siya. O saga shi desu ka? Okay, so it means to say ano po or what parang ano po yung nahanap nyo or what is the something that you're looking at, parang gano'n. Ano po yung parang some sort na gano'n din yung impact niya, no? May I help you or what are the things that you're looking for, parang gano'n, no? Kung ikaw yung nagbebenta ng merchandise. So again, ulitin natin para tama ang pronunciation. Nani ka o sagashi desu ka? Okay. So pag hindi kayo masyadong familiar from the word or for the sentence, syempre babagalan niyo siya. Nani ka o sagashi desu ka? Okay? Pag nasanay na kayo, pwede nyo bilisan. Okay. Next, this one is, I often heard this for yung mga nasa lobby or let's say, ito, sa office sa Japan, so pupunta ka sa isang building, hanapin mo yung ganitong tao. So ito yung mga normal na sinasabi ng mga receptionist doon sa lobby ng office, no, bago ka umakyat. So sabihin nila, go, go yoken desu, or go yoken desu ka, or go yoken wa. Okay, kasi wa parang question siya. Go yoken desu ka, or go yoken wa. So it means to say, how can I help you? Or what is your, parang translation niya sa English is, yoken kasi is parang yoken is requirement. So what are you parang ano, no? Parang what can I help you? But for this one is, normally I heard it a lot sa mga receptionists sa mga offices. Okay, so pag may nahanap kang tao, pupunta ka doon, so punta ka doon sa reception. Yan. Okay? So hopefully sana makatulong sa inyo to, no? Again, Japanese language is situation-based siya. Depende sa kausap mo. Of course, you have to be sensitive. Okay? So yun lang. So if you have some questions, please feel free to ask it in our comment box. And of course, I really appreciate if you like it. And of course, again, you can siguro, you can add some of the vocabularies pa if you want. Thank you.